Hey everyone, welcome to the UFO HUB live stream. Today's open lines where I hope to talk to some of you. I will, last time I promised we'll go immediately into the Telegram phone calls, but there was just a few things. I promise I won't go over too much. Some things I wanted to cover and show it to you. And hopefully there's going to be someone joining the chat. Otherwise, I can always just answer some questions, maybe from chat itself, whether you're on YouTube or Twitch, and or talk to you directly. And if there's nobody there, then I'll cut it short and we'll move on to another day. But yeah, so just recently, in case that you have not heard yet, I updated my entire library and uploaded it on podcasts now. So from the very first interview, when I first started UFO Hub, all the way up until last Friday. What day is today? No, last Wednesday. There's basically the entire library uploaded online. So it's on Spotify, Amazon, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Google, iHeart. And so there seem to be a lot more generous, I guess, when it comes to working with you. And so I love it. I wish I would have done it a lot sooner. And I'm still very grateful and thankful to Truth Seeker, because after we were done with the interview with him, we kind of chatted after the show, and he had brought it up to me about why don't I do podcasts. And I thought there was going to be an extra, this small extra rock on top of this huge mountain of rocks that I'm already carrying around and all the things that I have to do. And he assured me that it wouldn't be that much more difficult, and I already have the content, and I am so glad I took his advice. I guess all good things come in threes. I had George Nori ask me, why don't I do podcasts? Gave him an excuse. I have another friend ask me, why don't I do podcasts? I gave them an excuse. And then when it came by the third time, I was like, let's pay attention to it. And I'm glad I did. So, welcome everyone else that's still in the chat right now. So Jim, welcome. Rodzer, welcome. Lightning Rod, welcome. Alti Messex9, welcome. Oh, nice. Finally, somebody on Twitch. That's always cool. I've been streaming on Twitch too, but usually there's not that many viewers on there yet. Renee, welcome as well. Fabrizio, Sonia. So I'm glad all of you are here. And yeah, I would also recommend for some of you that do have Twitch to sign up there as well, because I don't know, especially last Wednesday, I didn't think it was anything controversial, but I got a little, not suitable for advertisers email from YouTube, and so they demonetized that video, and it was like, okay, I guess I was talking about something that they didn't like. But at least if I can continue building up an audience on Twitch, and hopefully I can do more on Rumble as well, that way I can then kind of shift over to these different platforms and not always be under the fist of YouTube. And so okay, let me shift some things around here. So the first thing I wanted to show you guys is a video that actually Fab22 sent to me. And as always, I do not know if this was altered, if this is CGI, but it was supposed to be a leaked video that was taken from the ISS station. And if anything, it looks cool. But I'm sorry that I can't be that authority and that source for you to say this is real. All I can do is show it to you, and I hope you take a look and kind of use your own curiosity to check it out. Now, I don't remember exactly of the email that Fab sent to me, but he sent this video in relation to a mothership that he said he was shown long ago that's supposed to be orbiting between the moon and the Earth. And he said it looked very similar to this, and that, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it kind of got him to he said that the hair on his back stood up. So I would assume it's something that hit a chord with him. And so anyway, just wanted to show it to you. I wish that I could cover more details, but There it is. And so the other thing that I wanted to show you was something that was started, or something that was that came out yesterday. And this director of the DNI, I guess it's the, let me see what her name is, Avril Haines, a director of the National Intelligence. So apparently she oversees all 16 U.S. spy agencies, which include the FBI and CIA. And she was at this event called the Our Future in Space. And she just made this comment that, again, I wish these people would come out and just say what they know, tell us the truth, go beyond this, oh, people can't handle it. But we always have to just deal with these short, cryptic messages. But at least it was something noteworthy, where she basically had said the main issues that Congress and others have been concerned about is safety of flight concerns and counterintelligence issues. Always, there's also the question of, is there something else that we simply do not understand, which might come extraterrestrially? And so it always makes you wonder, is she just kind of generally talking about asteroids? Is she actually referring to aliens or extraterrestrials? Or because extraterrestrial simply means out of this world, out of this terra, this atmosphere. So, yeah, your guess is as good as mine of what she would have meant by that. Oh, and also, I did not have a guest today. I tried really to, let me switch this over. I tried to get a guest and join me today, but as I did a little pre-show chat with Fabrizio, I was telling him that I basically reached out to 5 different people. 2 of them I think were Sasquatch related subjects, 3 UFO, and they would just couldn't or just weren't available, and so it was cutting it shorter and shorter and shorter. So I said, all right, I'll just do an open lines. Next Friday, I'm going to have Penny Kelly on again, so she's going to give some more updates. We're going to talk some more, and then of course open for question and answers. So if you have any questions for her, I hope you can join and have them ready for her. Wednesday is going to be another open line where hopefully some of you can chime in and call in. But yeah, I'm not going to, if there's not much interest, or if there's no one else calling in, because that is the whole purpose of this open line, I'll interact with the chat rooms a little bit, and after a while I'll just basically finish up for tonight. But if there is some interest, I hope you do join. You can download Telegram on your phone or the computer. All the links are in the description below for the UFO Hub Telegram group, and you'll see a live voice chat going on in there right now. And so come time when I open it up, you can directly connect with me and share your story and talk to me. Usually if there's whatever metaphysical stories you have, alien encounters, Bigfoot, you name it, sometimes people bring up politics, anything is pretty much open, because as I said from the very beginning, I wanted this to kind of be a hangout space to where we just hang out online and just talk about whatever is on people's minds, whatever kind of is going on in the buzz of the collective. And so that's what this is kind of there for. Instead of meeting somewhere, hopefully in the near future, somewhere in person, in a building where we can just relax and have something more structured, I guess we can just keep on doing this for now, because some people obviously can't join us here in Arkansas where I live, because either you are in a different state, different country, and maybe this might be the best suitable path for now. Okay, so let's see who we have in chat. Also, if you are in chat, if you could please put 3 asterisks before your question, that'll help me pop out at me a lot easier, so I know you're actually asking a question and not just chatting in the chat room. So I'd appreciate that. All right, YouTube chat, who do we have here? Okay, hello everyone. Ultimes69. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. That's a very loaded question. It's like, so what do you think aliens are? How about I answer it this way? In the playlist on the UFO Hub YouTube channel, and also on any of the podcasts, simply on the channel under the playlist called Talks, search for, or just there's just a few that I've given. There's one called The 5 Stages of Contact, and that would give you a very good idea what I've been through and what my thoughts are on what's going on. And so instead of me kind of butchering it and not doing it justice right now, I would really recommend for you to check it out. There's also different variants of what I've been through and expounded more on, followed up by the spiritual aspects of 9/11, and also God, aliens, and everything else. So there's at least 3 different talks that you can watch and listen to, and they'll give you a much better idea. Lightning Rod said, all those stars out there are yours. Not sure what you mean. Renee, extraterrestrial aliens. Yep. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to be, I guess, a little bit more cautious now too. If I'm silent and people are watching or listening on podcasts, they're just like, what's going on? It's one thing if you guys see me, what I'm doing, and I'm searching the list and going up and down to see who is there. Peggy's asking, have you seen the aliens? Depends on how you ask the question. I've seen the ships physically. On few occasions, the aliens out of body. And in that talk, the 5 stages of contact, I explain why physical contact is it's a lot harder than what people think. And so, what I could just expound on a little bit, and this is something that I was yesterday on Through Seekers podcast, and we were just kind of ended up more talking about the technical aspects and passions of podcasting, doing alien UFO type shows and things like that. But there was a question, I guess, that came up or few times that maybe I can try to answer here too. Because there's what initially puzzled me is that when I wanted to have physical contact, because that's what all of us want. We want that physical, hey, how are you? Shake your hand, nice to meet you type and, situation. What was very interesting is that how much mental work and how much your psyche is involved with making physical contact, because it has their vibration, their energy, that dimension that they're from has a actual physical effect on you. And so the closer they come to you, the more and more, and pardon my French, it fucks with your head. And so they're very cautious on how they approach it and how they communicate. So it's a lot easier through dreams and certain meditative states for them to initiate contact and kind of work with you there and then kind of lead up to it. And as far as I'm concerned and what I kind of know, physical contact is actually very rare. That most of us that have made contact is in these alternate dimensions to where it's either out of body or your body has been physically shifted to their reality and adjusted to their reality in order to have this conversation. Because in the world that we live in, it's all basically has these barriers that are kind of measured by our senses. So you can really only interact with things that you can perceive, things you can see, touch, and hear. And so those have been obviously the controlling senses of our lives. So when it's time to start interacting on these different levels with these different beings, it's actually quite different. It's a lot more of an intuitive experience. But at the same time, they do have a physical effect. A lot of the times, it almost starts out like a small electrical buzz. I don't know if some of you had that experience with, I know, working electric and cutting corners and sometimes not switching off the breaker. There would be just like a little buzz you can feel if you touch the wire by accident or otherwise. And so depends on how high the voltage is. Initially, you can kind of, take that that change, that charge, but then the longer you hold onto it, it kind of makes, tightens up all your muscles, and you kind of, that energy really, locks you up. And that's obviously a physical effect where all your muscles cramp up and everything else. But it's very, very similar when it comes to contact itself too. And so that's why it's always so challenging and difficult to talk to people about, well, did you make contact? Did you not make contact? Well, in the 5 stages of contact, I explain about the physical experiences that had happened, and I explain also about what I've been trying to do throughout all those years. And so what recently puzzled me was I was trying to figure out, well, okay, there's all these government people that, how in the world are they making contact? It's not about a competition. It's not about, well, I'm a good person and these evil government people are not, so how come they have contact with aliens and I can't have it physically? It wasn't like that at all. It was more of a trying to figure out, like, how did they overcome this barrier that I was constantly facing? And so it took me a while to realize that different beings, depends on which ones you're contacting, their vibrations are different. And in my case, they were always very high in vibration, so it was very difficult for me to have the contact that I want to have. It was only later that I also learned there's, especially the hybrids, that's why a lot of times there were, not a lot of times, what I believe, what I was told, and you can also find this through the channel Bashar, there's talking about that they're adjusting them energetically to where they can be also kind of like the first contact for us. So that even though we might not be able to initially make contact with these high vibrational beings, the hybrids would be a lot closer to us, to where we don't have to overcome as much. And what I'm talking about is, it really is like a feeling like you're going crazy. Because the closer in proximity, physical proximity they are to you, you kind of start getting into this like paranoia, and into this fight or flight mode, because you start noticing a change in the very... Okay, sorry, I was getting some beeps in my ear, and it just seems like that telegram was cutting out there for a little bit. Maybe it will work now. One quick second. I'm sorry. Let me check this. Testing 1 2. Okay, we're good. All right. Sorry, I wish I had a producer that can actually tell me if something goes wrong. Otherwise, I wouldn't know. It could be on silent, and I wouldn't know what's going on. Anyway, so where was I at? Oh, physical proximity. The closer they come to you, you start going into this freak out mode, because there's this your spine almost kind of gets activated, and it's not that there's, now knowing that there's really nothing to fear, but when this happens unknowingly to you, you wonder, like, what in the world is going on? Why can't I move? Why can't I do what I need to do? And not only then, it comes with this expansion of your mind to where you start remembering things in a very slight way, because their vibrations are so high that in this universal way and the way things work, the consciousness is kind of almost like forced to come up to where they are. They don't ever really go down on out to our level. So I guess Bashar Austin was describing this in these different gears, to where when you have these high spinning gear and a very low spinning gear, you can't just jam both of those gears together. It'll just explode, and repel from each other. So it's basically, you have to get these slower gear wound up at the right speed in order then for that connection to be made. And so that's what happens to us psychologically, to where we're not ready to understand who we are, why we are here, to start remembering certain things about previous lives, other lives who've had all these things that would just, it messes with you. So a lot of the contact that has happens basically either you were already asleep, and then the vibration of your body can be raised and moved into the other dimension, and then basically wake you up, where you retain your ego or your consciousness. So whoever you are, Sam, Josh, Susie, whatever, you can maintain that and only have those memories that you are interacting with these beings. Now, it's still startling, but you can still kind of keep your shit together. Whereas on our dimension, it kind of blows your head apart, not physically, but like it makes you feel like you're going crazy. And so, or it's a lot easier, for example, to be already in a dream state or meditative state, to have get to the level to understand that out of body experiences are possible. And so the soul purpose, or the soul version of you that you are, is already this high vibration that doesn't require much to overcome at all. So that interaction with these different beings is very much possible immediately. And so that's why a lot of times, people would just say, well, was that then a real contact, or was I just dreaming this? Well, if you remember it, you will remember it in a very specific way, and you would 100% know that this was not a dream, but only once you go through it yourself does it become clear to you, and you'll understand that, like, no, this is definitely happened. I definitely need to, pay attention to this. For example, one particular example, I don't know if I've shared it in the 5 stages of contact. I know I definitely, during the spiritual aspects of 9/11 talk that I have on the playlist, I think I've shared it there, where I basically, after a meditation using the 15 symbols that were given by Bashar, I just got this flash of this purple flash of light, and I just felt like I needed to go to sleep. I wanted to go to sleep. And so I just got up and laid down. And when I did and closed my eyes, I immediately found myself in a different spot. It was very effortless. It didn't take much work at all. All I had to do is just close my eyes here, open my eyes at the other location. Well, long story short, I basically interacted with 5, what I consider or know now to be 5 tall white grays. And so what was, to cut to the story real quick, what was interesting, once that experience was done and over with, I was kind of also then, wanting to doubt. I mean, there was nothing I could doubt, but there was part of me, it's like, just, can I possibly forget this? Because it's so weird that it happened and the way it happened. And so, synchronistically, the day after that, I was going to a meeting. It was a UFO meeting, and I saw a lot of my friends there, and I showed up, and one of my friends, came up to me and said, "Hey, I have a gift for you," And I was like, "A gift for me? You never give me a gift," and she kind of hands me this little, square with the gift wrap paper and all of that. And I was like, "Oh, well, okay, well, thanks." And she's like, "Go ahead, look at it." So I take the paper apart, and I take it off, and it's basically a picture of an alien ship landing in the woods with 5 aliens standing in front of it. And I just went like, whoa, And so those are the kind of experiences that happen all the time. It's like a confirmation. It's like, no, you were not dreaming this. This did occur, but everything happens in the way it happens, because it basically has its purpose for you to kind of chew on it, think about it, play with it, in you mentally some more, so that you can get used to that idea, and so that you're not constantly freaking out every time they come around, for you to go through this freak out mode and taking all this time to kind of calm down in order to interact with you. So anyway, I think I went into way more detail than I wanted to, but I hope this kind of makes sense or explains a little bit about, to give you the answer to your question, did I meet aliens? Okay, let's see. I kind of lost my spot. If you guys are wanting to ask you a question or directly talk to me, please make sure you include the 3 asterisks before the question. It really helps me. Otherwise, I'm not sure if it just saves more time on me trying to figure out if this is for me or somebody else in the chat. Uh, duh, duh, duh. So labeled 369. First of all, welcome. And then she says, it seems everything and anything is possible. Maybe we make it possible as we communicate about it. Well, yes. I mean, anything that kind of gets you in that state of mind, to it changes your vibration. You vibrate and into I guess that direction that you manifest. Okay. All right. No other questions directly from me. So I'm glad you guys are chatting. You guys gotta make me feel bad if I have to end this sooner, because it looks like you guys got it going. So Peggy says, so what are you doing to get to this place? Is it yoga or what? When now knowing what I know now, I mean, honestly, it could be anything, because at the end of the day, it's the intention and the sincerity of that intention. Because a lot of us, we always say, I want this, but secretly we don't really, but we make ourselves feel better that we said I want to, or I tried, and only when you're truly done with your own like internal BS and you say, okay, I'm ready. So for example, these experiences for me, this was a period of 5 years where I just basically lived in the woods by myself, and went to work every day, but then I would come home to nobody, to just explore at whatever time of whatever date I wanted to, whatever it may be, whether it's meditation, psychedelics, binaural beats, not necessarily yoga in my case, but I would just kind of intuitively do things like, if I had a lot of anger or a lot of frustration, it helped me if I just kind of moving my hands in this kind of gathering formation, like I'm imagining this huge darker cloud of all my negativity and whatever made me mad for that day or the week, and I would just kind of ball it all together and just kind of do this Street Fighter Hadouken, kicking it out, to get myself in this peaceful state. I mean, really, whatever is more soothing to you. I mean, painting, doing something you love, everything, you can be in that meditative state, and then from that state, just your inner guidance, your inner will to just. So, for example, to give you another example, like while I'm driving, sometimes I would kind of not necessarily play a game, but do something fun. So I would have to have this 50 minutes drive, and so what I would basically do is I would just, let's say I would leave work and I'm starting to drive, and it's long highway drives, and I would just imagine. Okay, well, I've been dealing with UFOs in a while, and this is before I even started anything UFO related. And I would kind of say, okay, what if somebody came up to me? How can I explain to them all that I know about UFOs, right? So I would imagine myself having a conversation with them, or me starting out, okay, this is what's up, right? And so as I start talking, and I would just kind of have this internal dialogue, it starts out very egotistically, but the more pure and honest you are to really convey as accurate information as you possibly can, stuff and things come up to you, and feelings come up, and certain concepts where you're not exactly sure. It's like, did I just make up this concept, or what happened? Where did this come from? And so what I would often do is then I would let them play out, and you just keep that dialogue going, and the next thing you know, you understand certain things and have actually come from it more than what you initially understood. And only later, in my case, then I would then have a confirmation that this isn't happening, because other people would have the experiences that they would share, or it would be in a book somewhere, or I overhear somebody talking about it. So that's also a way that you can get in touch with more than what you initially know. And so you can do meditation, you can do yoga, as long as you are truly, like I said, it's that intention of how you want to go about it. Because there's a lot of people that just want to be like, I want to be the one to tell everybody the truth. I want to be the one to have this, these answers. And I want to tell them, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this. That's That's a very egotistical way. And it's not that it's not possible getting the answers to that way, but you're not meshing with someone who is this vibration of truth, and then you have this ego all about me, 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 me. It just won't match. And so that's why I'm saying it's your intention and the purity and honesty of how serious are you with this. So for example, like my experiences and all that I approached during the 5 years were truly just about me. I didn't go out in public to say, hey guys, I'm going to do something crazy. Let's see if we can contact aliens. I was in the woods by myself, wondering, what in the world is this? Why am I here? What is out there? There was nobody else around me that I needed to convince. It was a inner guidance, inner will for that truth and to search. So I hope that kind of gives you an answer of what you can do, which is pretty much quite a lot. It's just about your initial intention and how serious you are about it. Labels 369. Have you had QHHT? Yes. Whoops. Okay, let me see if I messed up my mic now. Yes, I did. I've had a QHHT session with a practitioner that was directly taught by Dolores, and somebody who I trusted that would do a pretty good job, because without getting into longer details, after Dolores' death, some things occurred that I'm pretty sure Dolores will not agree. So let's just leave it at that. So long story short, I was very fortunate and able to do with a session with original Dolores practitioner. Unfortunately, at this point, she had already died. I think she was already dead for over a year. And so basically, she was already dead for over a year, and I was not able to do a session with her. But I would have loved to have a session, and just to kind of talk to her directly. Give me 1 second. Okay. But yeah, it was very interesting. Maybe some other time I could go into the QHHT session, because that very much felt like some of the experiences that I already had, that I had on my own, that basically got me to kind of gave me a confirmation that I was already on the right path. Okay, Piking B said, I've recently joined your group, so have you ever had an alien contact or an awakening experience? If so, would you mind telling or retelling how this happened? I've heard you briefly mention. Well, I don't know if you heard that part, but I hope that you can basically revisit the playlist. Okay, give me 1 quick second, everyone, on Telegram and on YouTube. Please bear with me. I will be right back. I just have to attend to something, so please do not sign off. I'll be right back. Okay. Sorry about that. I actually, what had happened is my son had called, and I never ever, my older son, never ever get a phone call from him during this time. And so I thought it was more of some kind of emergency that he needed to get a hold of me and whatnot. But thank God it's nothing serious. He just forgot, and he was wanting to ask for some money. So anyway, we're all good. I'm glad it wasn't anything more serious than that. So yeah, Pike and B, I hope you understood what I meant to say. It's a lot. There's a lifelong story of experiences. So I really hope you can revisit the playlist that's on the UFO Hub YouTube channel, and a playlist called Talks, and you'll find different talks that I've given, and they would definitely answer your questions. Oh yeah, and also, by the way, I'm saying this sarcastically, so, and I might, some people might understand it, but some people might get pissed off about it. Depends on where you stand on this issue. But I've recently gotten a cold. Yeah, believe it or not. So it is possible to get a cold nowadays. It's not all that one thing that everyone keeps constantly talk about. So I was very surprised. I'm sorry if I sound very sarcastic about it. Labels 369, you rock. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Sonia, great place, great people. Jim, what are your opinions on the possible links between ET and Bigfoot? Well, I don't have a specific experience with that, but when some of the experiences that when I had of this, I guess, where your mind just expands and connects with everything, and you understand for this brief moment of why you're here, what is going on, you see that literally everything is linked. Everything is literally one energy expressing itself in different ways. And so it's when it comes to these, let's say aliens and Bigfoot, it's nothing more than consciousness expressing itself in all it can be, and in this case it is the extraterrestrials, and it also is Bigfoot. And so each one has their own individual abilities and evolutions and things like that, because during some of my experiences, what became very obvious is that you are the God you're looking for. And we have forgotten that over long periods of time. We've kind of started playing this game, and we've played it for a very long time and played it well, but we had forgotten who we are, where we came from, which really is from here and now. And it basically is this whole process of what's been going on through any kind of challenges, some difficulties and whatnot. It would basically, how I should say, you basically are kind of forced to then, through all these challenges and difficulties, to wake up slowly to that moment. Because it's only in this weird kind of way, it's only when you're really like squeezed and kind of put between a rock and a hard place that you want to expand to different ideas, to want to expand to different places than what you were in before. Because a lot of us, we always like to say that, but we don't necessarily follow up on it, that, oh yeah, I'm open, oh yeah, I'm doing new things all the time. But actually we're very much set in our ways. And it really takes a drastic push for us to go into a whole new avenue, into a whole new direction, whether it would be behavior-wise, exploring things, you name it. And so by all this turmoil that's going on right now in all these different ways, it in this beautiful dance, this cosmic dance, it pushes everybody's buttons just the right way to get them to bump up. Not everybody, but enough to get certain people to where they've agreed to be at this point, at this time, on the stage, to where they said, okay, I've played out quite a lot of these games, reliving lives, doing all these different things throughout these eons, and it's time to kind of awaken from that moment, that realizing like, oh, this was just a game, and that's the other part too, that only when you like seriously look into these different things do you realize that that's a journey you're on. But if you just like now, if I just tell it to you, it would be maybe a shock to you. Maybe you'd just be like, yeah, you full of shit, but it really only when you pursue it, truly pursue it, will you come to that understanding. Um, so there's Jim, Sonia. Yeah, the seasonal flu disappeared. Yep, entirely. So Jim asks, "Oh, I'd be too scared to meet an ET. I think I'd have a heart attack if I did. They just fascinate me." Well, I mean, you can, if you're interested in the subject, that means there's part of you that wants to explore it more. You're toying with the idea of waking up, because when you go into these certain directions, it definitely changes you. Um, you would think that you're still kind of the same person, but it really is as drastic of a difference as this analogy that I overused too many times, but as drastic as like a difference between a 5-year-old and a 50-year-old. That's a big difference of life experiences and everything else. And going down that direction would pretty much kind of set you even a short period of time. Even if you did and explore some things for a year or however long, it will definitely grow you in ways to where you're going to change to where you don't want to hang out with the same people anymore. Which what happened to me. I literally just dropped everyone that I knew and explored these new avenues, and then pretty much had all new friends that came into my life that basically then would kind of be on that journey with me. And I noticed how little of friends that I had that would actually listen to me. Not necessarily about UFOs, but just to me, if I would have a bad day, I'd never realized nobody ever wanted to sit down and say, "Hey, and then how are you? How's life? How are you doing?" Most of them were always so absorbed into themselves that if I, only looking back, if I ever did start on it, they're like, "Oh, come on, just let's go get some drinks. You think about this too much," and then they would just, not want to have this, this session with a friend to just hear me out. And I thought, yeah, they're probably right. Maybe this is not the place, but then it just turned out that over long periods of time, I realized there was never a place. It was just never anyone really wanting, to be that friend, to just, whatever it is, just to hear about how did my day go or something like that, or just have a more of a deeper conversation than what was the latest score in baseball or football. So anyway, and so those are the kind of changes, that you might expect to have happened to you if you're going down this route of exploration about yourself, exploration about exploration about yourself, and exploration of what all this is about in general. So let me, Paulie, I apologize. I've been kind of slacking. So let me shift over to voice chat and let me bring you in. Paulie, you're unmuted on my end. Unmute yourself on yours, and you should be able to speak to me.
Hey there.
Hey, how are you?
Everybody listening? I'm well. I came in a little late, but I heard you talking part of that story earlier about the tall whites. And
right.
You mentioned vibrations. If you wouldn't mind going into a little more detail about that, because I have that kind of going on with me. It helped me understand my situation a little bit, and then I can share with you. So if you could tell me like what the sensations are, how they come in, what you do after.
Well,
that'd be interesting.
Right. Well, see, there's two sets that I can kind of go into, because vibrations have almost like no limitation of how subtle. I'm sorry, I'm going to mute you for a second, just so for any background noise. But raise your hand again if you want to ask me follow-up questions, okay? Oh, okay, you muted yourself. I'll keep you unmuted, so just hop in when I'm done. So, for example, we don't often think about this in this way, but memory is a perfect example of vibration. because we only understand memory that, okay, well, in your brain, these neurons, they connect in a certain way, and some are, say, connected long term, so you have long term memory, others are short term, and they kind of just disappear and break the connection after a while. Or if you have a glass of alcohol, they'll do it. If you weed will kill some brain cells, and all these connections are constantly connected and reconnected all the time. Well, some of these subtle vibrations, can be as subtle as like a memory, right? Where if you remember something, you go like, oh, it's like I just remembered this, whatever, this one particular thing. It wasn't part of your reality, and the next thing you know, it's there and it's very much real. Well, that kind of shift in consciousness is also this shift in this vibration, to where this one reality didn't have what you were interacting with, and then this other shift in this other reality, all of a sudden there's this whole thing that is part of a memory and has a history, and something you can interact with, right? And then, so it goes something as subtle as that to vibrations to where you really start feeling tingles all over your body, like small little needle pricks, not painful, but just very, very subtle. And then it starts, the stronger they start becoming like, first it feels like small little pricks, but then the stronger they get, it just feels like the needles kind of stop poking and they start digging in more, and then the next thing you know, it will be also a feeling of like a chill up and down your spine. And so they can vary that widely, of talking about vibrationally. So I hope that kind of answers or gives you a little bit of an idea of how I see vibration. So tell me what you want to talk about.
Yeah. So okay, I was trying to confirm if what you were saying was a physical sensation. Yeah, I don't think maybe I mentioned it on a call earlier, but yeah, I'm having these things happen to me. It's been happening over months, and I noticed it doesn't really happen maybe when so if I'm busy at work or there's a lot going on in the real world, you could say, they kind of don't happen. But then if I have time, like a few days or on vacation, where my mind can expand a little bit and I have more time to think about spiritual things. Yeah, I have these things going on when I go to bed or if I meditate where, yeah, these sensations come in, and I thought it was my imagination for a while, but it's not. It's like, uh, it's like ringing in the ears, usually how it starts, and then I get those pricks, and they become more intense,
Right.
and then it starts to turn into, I guess, swirling. It feels like. So for people listening, here's how you could. All right, so close your mouth and blow a little air in your mouth, right, to fill up your cheeks. All right. You see how it's a subtle sensation, so you don't have muscles there, but it's like pushing the skin out a little bit. It's real subtle. Well, imagine that feeling starting in one part of your body and swirling around and going inside like a snake and just vibrating. And it's probably vibrating maybe 4 times faster than my heartbeat, because I've gone through every type of explanation. I tried to say, okay, maybe this is my heart, maybe my breathing, maybe it's just neurological damage, maybe it's the wind, I don't know, but it's not. And it moves and it tickles, and sometimes it gets so intense it kind of gets a little annoying. I've had some times where I've gone to bed and it's woken me up, where I'm just vibrating and I'm just like, and then I'll just basically say, please stop whatever this is. It's too much. But
Right.
I tried bringing it up like real low key around some people that I know, and nobody knows about this. Nobody talks about it. This forum here is the only place I heard that even mentions it, and I'm glad. Like, I'm sure there are other
Paulie, can
places
you
where
just get
people
to your
know about
phone
it.
just a little bit closer? I'm already
Oh,
boosted everything
sure.
I can on my end.
Yeah, let me get a little closer. I'm sorry. But yeah,
Okay.
it seems I can't get any answers for this. I don't know anybody in my life who knows anything about it, and people look at me crazy. and they say maybe you should see a doctor, and I'm not going to go to the doctor for it. So I'm glad, you know, at least you have some experiences. I'm sure there's other people, maybe some people listening if they want to call in, but yeah, I don't know. It's
Well,
new to
there's
me. It's interesting.
right. That would be interesting too. Sometimes, while I was still in that at that house in Robertsville, a lot of times people they know about this when I tell them. It's like these certain twitches you get in your body. But to give you an example for myself, because often they'll say, "Oh, you're about to fall asleep," and so your brain is kind of going in and out this consciousness state, and so this little twitches you get, they're just something your muscles do, and the muscle spasms because you're preparing yourself to go to sleep. Well, it's not quite like that. Maybe that is possible. That is definitely also that happens with the body, but this particular twitching that I want to tell you about was they would like I would go to sleep and I would still be very much awake and aware of what's going on, and it's not like my body's going to sleep, but out of nowhere I would just kind of like get a jolt of energy, and I wouldn't understand what in the world is happening. And so that was happening for a while in my right leg, and so and then it would kind of keep going, and it was almost silly. It's like, what in the world is happening? Like, I would get up and I would move my leg, like, okay, what is happening here? So then I lay back down, and then after a while it starts happening again, right? And then about 2 days later, I'm walking around and I realized my knee that I've hurt ages ago when I was 15 doing some, believe it or not, there was a time when I was big into, rollerblading, and I was doing these jumps and I was jumping off the steps, and the very first step had a slight imperfection. It was, a bit higher than the regular street, and I didn't see it. So right before I did the jump, I got stuck and I lost my balance to where I was either going to fall flat on my face, but I spread my legs to kind of catch my fall, and I really messed up my right knee real bad, because as I landed it twisted quite a lot, and ever since then I never went to the doctor, but it always felt off. And that was something that happened to me, and I don't mind telling people, because for one, I really don't expect anyone to believe me. I don't need them to believe me. All I know is that in my life and for what I experienced, for reasons that I don't know other than to just help me, and I don't exactly know who, or what place it was coming from. All I know is that whatever this energy was fixed my knee, and I can,
Interesting.
I walk around and not, feel the pains that I've felt since I was pretty much 15, and, there's all kinds of different things that always are occurring. And, it wasn't an answer to what's going on to that particular experience, but it was more of a like overall answer, is that we're constantly, whether we want it or not, we're constantly watched and surrounded by all these different, I guess, beings, for the lack of a better word, but it's all these different aspects of ourselves that are participating and watching in this game and act that we're playing. And so it depends on how much time you want to spend to get reacquainted with them and make that contact again, or if you're just going to keep on playing and acting out your life until you die, and them just kind of participating and seeing how you, as this, person, as Paulie as you are, how you would do certain things in life, and they would kind of see that as an entertainment, no different than we would watching a movie.
Yeah, that's a good point. When it comes in, sometimes, I might stop what I'm doing if I'm wide awake and go lay down, try to meditate. And then when I give the thought, and like an inviting thought, like, if you have good intentions, you can come closer, immediately the sensation magnifies. And I guess I'm saying that hoping maybe I'll get like a brief visual, but I haven't gotten one. And then when it lingers, I guess there's no way to interact, so I just kind of put out the thought, like, thank you for being here and giving me attention, and if you want, maybe you could heal me while you're here. And I don't know, maybe that's why, or maybe they're just
Right.
curious or saying hello. But it was very subtle for months, and then the more I started to kind of acknowledge it in my mind, the more it got intense. And I was scared at first, but I'm not. And I'm it's yeah, honestly, it's kind of weird, guys. But
Right.
to me, it's
Well,
real.
what's very interesting, so for example, from this ego perspective, it feels like, yeah, I would say the same thing, like, oh, they, quote unquote, they, whatever that was, healed me, But at the end of the day, like during my near death experience, right? And you understand that you're basically this willing participant, right? Polly, I'm sorry, I'm going to mute you real quick. There's just too much feedback coming. Or can you do that
Okay.
and then unmute yourself later? Okay, thank you. Um, the what I was going to say regarding this, this process, it's like all these things that happen. It's like this grand play that we're all part of, and it's almost look at it as if this whole thing on the planet is like this huge Universal Studio film being filmed, and we're all individual actors acting our parts. And I promise that I will do the part of Adnan the best way I can. Paulie, you're gonna do the part of Paulie the best way you can, and everyone else, 7+ billion people on the planet, are gonna keep doing their part, and they're gonna, know their lines, and they're gonna know who they are, and they're gonna draw back and say, I have a history. I was born at this place. I live at this location. Then we moved, and yada yada yada. Only then to later on come out of that play and say, oh wow, we played that well. And this is not to belittle experiences, because that play is very much real to you. Because when you're done, you basically you just realize, oh, this was just a game. I'm okay. I've always been okay. But the circumstance wasn't real, right? But the state of being was. So you being hurt by maybe somebody knifing you or punching you in the face or hurting your feelings, that experience is very real, because that is the essence of who you are. But at the end of the day, on the grander scheme of things, none of what had really happened here matters. It was simply to go through the experience, gain what you can from it, grow from it, and then you just keep moving on and on. There's really never any stoppage. So when we're talking about, they healed me, it's very interesting point. It's like, yeah, from my ego perspective, I would sit there and wonder, well, who was it? I don't know who it exactly was, but just generally speaking, what I've seen behind the veil, it's basically just, all these circumstances were created by you to go through however many years, moments you needed them to go through, and then they, after they've done served their purpose, they're it's finished, it's done with, right? And sometimes we learn our lesson, which then certain things change and you're done with. So for example, like part of this convoluted, I guess, play is that we're always constantly given messages, and there's these specific these specific rules that are this archetypal rules that everybody can understand and go by, right? So for example, generally, if you like having issues with your teeth, it's a representation of that you're not speaking, you're not saying what's on your heart, what you want to say. If you're, having diabetes, and that means you're having sugar problems, that means, you don't have love for yourself, and you're not allowing others to love you, and then there's, these directions, left arm, right arm, what do they mean? These different, sides of you, everything has a specific meaning. Now, of course, if you're a normie, that's absolutely insane, and to you, they're like,
Well,
what in the hell are you talking about?
well, you and I are both bald. What does that mean?
Well, see, I have a beard. That means, I'm wiser than I look.
Okay.
Well,
Hey,
see, what that's one part that you can look into. Like, so Dolores, she during the work that she's done, I'm only referring to her because it's not my main it's not my main place where I spend a lot of time, where I concentrate on that. Only when I really need to figure out something myself, I would refer to someone else that specializes in that spend their entire life understanding this kind of stuff. So then I look to them to find some answers, even for myself. But some, very very obvious things, for example, like back pain usually means that, you're not being supported. It means that the whole weight of whatever you're doing is just on you, and it's getting heavier and heavier to where you can't handle it, which manifests in physical pain. And so usually once you resolve that and really look out to say, okay, I need help, or you ask for help, or reach out, in this weird way that most people don't understand, it resolves itself. It fixes itself without needing to take anything, any kind of medicine or ibuprofen to relieve the pain and all this other stuff, But I've lived my life in those ways, in that, in that, going in that direction, to where, to me, that's normal. And I don't think about it, again. Whereas in a person that needs convincing that that's real, they would then still hang on to what they know, and only until they get the satisfaction of taking in ibuprofen, only then will they say, my back feels better, while ignoring of what these physical messages are trying to tell you. There's all kinds of things. I mean, certain animals are archetypal, and what they mean usually. Like, to give you a perfect example, I was actually talking to my wife, or before we became husband and wife. I was talking to her on the phone. I lived in St. Louis. She lived here in Arkansas. And so I was talking to her, and we were just talking about animals. And she's like, oh, I was reading this, and deer represent a great change, happening in your life. And I was like, oh wow, I've been seeing a lot of deer, they've been happening and whatnot. And I can't remember exactly it was that night, but as I'm also another day, or possibly that night, it's been 7 years ago now, so I can't remember every detail, but I was on the phone with her talking, and no matter how hard I tried, there was a deer running up on the road, and I hit it head on. And I was upset about it that happened, but I told her, I said, so if I hit a deer, does that mean I'm really, really going to have a change now happen in my life? And sure enough, a month later, I uprooted from St. Louis and moved to Arkansas and started a family. It's like, that's a huge change, So again, if you live that life in that way and you understand it, it becomes this magical place and this place that's always been there, that most people don't look into. And that's okay. It's just that others that consider themselves to be more normal, they would just, scoff at it, make fun of it, and then, kind of say, yeah, that's crazy, and then move on. And that's all right. But, what a world that's coexisting if you just simply learn how to kind of shift to that different mindset and kind of live by it.
Yeah. I have another thing too. Before, I remember a couple months ago, I had a friend call in, and we did that. But I had a friend text me yesterday. She went and saw that movie Eternals. And she was texting me saying, this movie freaked me out because the spaceship in that movie is something I've seen before. So, and she comes in and listens to this program. And I just called her and I asked if she would elaborate on that with the group. And she said, yeah. So if it's all right, I can hold the phone up and you guys could talk. Is that cool?
Say that again. Yeah, you were saying for her to talk?
Yeah. So if you, hey, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, very faintly.
Yeah, let me try again. Speak louder.
Okay, is that better? Can you hear me better?
It's still very faint. Let me see here. If she's okay. Paulie, do you know how to send direct messages on Telegram to me?
Yeah, or I can email you.
Does she have Telegram, or is it going to be a kind of a burden for her to download it right now?
I don't have Telegram.
No, she doesn't have
Okay, well, if she's okay, right, if she's okay with that, what I can do, I can dial her through Skype right now, and I get much better signal if she's okay with that.
Yeah, let's do that. Is that okay?
Yeah. So just so while
I'll email you. I'll
Yeah, just
email you.
text it to me over the
Okay.
private message on Telegram,
Okay, I'll do that.
and
All
then
right, thanks.
I'll give her a call.
Okay, bye.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, yeah, just recently, not recently, just a while back. I don't usually do that, but I realized, oh, wait a minute, I can do phone calls over Skype, and so I've had some minutes a while back. So on occasions like this, I don't mind doing that, especially if there's somebody who wants to talk but can't get to me, and it's not or can't use Telegram. Then I don't mind spending some time in this way to make a connection for someone who's really eager and willing to talk. Let's see what else is going on in chat. Sonia asks, and then what is your name on Telegram? Well, this is the.
Hey, do you mind? Sorry, I can't
Yeah, go
message
ahead.
you. Could you send me a message and I'll reply to it?
Oh yeah, I can do
Okay.
that too.
All right, thanks.
All right. So I apologize, everyone, for having to do this live, but please bear with me here. All right. What do we got? Sonia, the question, the reason why I said I have a Telegram direct for my personal, and nothing against you, but I really would like to keep that private. What I can do, if you are already part of the Telegram group, I can find you, and then you can to right click on your name, and I can send you a message. Then you can chat with me as UFO Hub. Let me see here. So there's Paulie. Send a message. So send him one. So Sonia, if you can, let me see. Are you already part of the group? Let me search you also here. Because if you're part of that group, I can find you and then send you a message there, and then you can write back. Are you under Sonia? No. But yeah, if you join the group, if you download Telegram, or if you already have it, you can go to the Telegram group, or UFO Hub Telegram group, join it, and you'll be added to the list, and then I can search for you, and I can send you a direct message to you that way. So it's not a general chat. I'll only be chatting with you directly. All right, let's see. I'm about to call her here, and we'll see if this goes through. Oh, it says unavailable. All right, let me try again. Sorry about this, y'all. Let me see if I can to dial one more time. There you go. Let's mute that. So yeah, Paulie, I've been trying to call her. It says it's unavailable. So I don't know why I cannot dial out. Okay. What is my opinion on Greg Braden. Honestly, when it comes to these different people, whoever get kind of drawn to, however you end up finding out who they are, or their information, I would I would then recommend you watching or listening whatever it is that came across your way, because I don't believe in accidents. So if there's a reason why you came across that person, then there's something there that you need in your development, or just for entertainment. Whatever the purpose is, it's important for you to I guess follow up on it. So when you're asking specific questions about should you or should you not listen to somebody, honestly, it's not my place to say. Through your own life experience, you'll find out, is this person worthy for me listening to or not. Well, she was very faint, coming through faintly on my end, and especially if I'm going to be, let's see. Let's go to calls and try this again. Yeah, it just keeps saying it's unavailable. Well, Polly, I don't know how difficult it would be for her to maybe get Telegram, but I think it might take a while to set up, especially if you're trying to talk directly. I have no idea. I'm looking at these numbers, and they seem to be the right amount of numbers for the United States. Is she in the United States?
Yeah. Hey, I'll give you my number, and maybe you can
Yeah.
just call, and I'll merge the calls on my end and it'll work. You want to try that?
Yeah, I mean, we could, at this
That might
point,
work. All right.
we can try whatever you guys like. So yeah, forgive me for those of you listening and watching. Sometimes we got to do certain things, and so this is one of them. Let's do it. Hi, can you hear me? I had somebody answer, but then it hung up. All right. Yeah, no, it looked like for a second her number came through, but then wasn't successful. Let's try this one. After that, then we'll try it maybe some other time. I don't want to take up too much of people's time, so I'm gonna dial yours right now. Hey, Paula, can you hear me? All right. Well, let's see if that would work. What else we got? PD says he's too Hollywood-like for me most of the time, but sometimes this resonates with me. Right. Well, I mean, you never... Yeah, I'm here. Oh, you're talking to her. Okay, is this Christy? Okay, let me unmute.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
My story isn't going to be all exciting with all this anticipation.
Just real quick, are you having a TV in the background, or is that Polly?
I think it's Paul.
Okay, go ahead.
turned
Let's
it up.
see. Yeah, let's see, because
Okay,
I was hearing
does it
some
sound
echoes.
okay?
We'll see
Do
if
I-
it works.
Do I sound all right now?
Yes, go ahead. Just
Yeah,
tell us
okay.
what you wanted to say.
Just really quick, I did see that movie Eternals yesterday, and it's a Marvel movie, and I don't really watch Marvel and like comic book movies, but it just so happened that this movie was like at the time that we wanted to go to a movie, so we picked it. And like the first scene was this UFO, a triangle UFO thing, and it's so crazy because it's exactly what I saw when I was a teenager, like in the 90s. And I am friends with Polly, so I had told him this story. And, there's not a lot of people that I talk to about, what I saw. And I had told Polly this, and then just basically seeing what I had seen in the 90s, like on TV, on the big screen, it looked exactly the way I saw it. It just was like amazing. It just brought back memories, and I just couldn't believe it. Just kind of validated what I had seen because, now to present day, it was always just a memory, a faint memory. And then, just to see it on like this random Avengers.
Well, could you
or
just,
like
Brad,
Marvel
start at the
movie.
beginning and tell where you were and what it looked like and
About when I saw it?
yeah.
Yeah, so it was in Orange County, California, in this area that was sort of underdeveloped. The city was just starting to become developed. So I was in high school at the time, and I was waiting on the street for a friend to pick us up. And I was with my best friend, and the street that we were on was like the last street of the city. So everything outside of that was just like hills. It's like kind of like with cows and, rolling green hills. And so we were standing on the regular street, like the only big street at that edge of the city. And it was late at night. We had like snuck out of the house, being teenagers, waiting to get picked up. And we saw this black, humongous triangle, I guess, UFO spaceship thing, like just floating like right above us or coming over the mountain or the hills. And it had no sound, and it was just like floating but moving kind of like from right to left. And I don't know, it's hard to explain like how big it is. I guess it's maybe like
a football field?
10, 12 football fields. I don't know. It was huge. It was gigantic, and it was black. It was dark. I mean, where we were was dark anyway. So, and where it's coming from, there weren't like houses over there. So it was just for whatever reason, just like floating, moving from left to right over the hills. And it was totally perfect triangle. But it only had like a few lights in the front, like tiny, tiny, tiny lights, like little ones, not, floodlights or whatever.
You're saying that is the exact same ship that they had in the movie? Or similar to it?
Yeah, so then yesterday in the beginning of the movie, it's this scene where, and it takes place, I think they said it was like 500 BC or something, and it was floating exactly the same way over the ocean, like onto the shore in the movie. But it was just like a shock and a relief to see that is exactly what it looked like. Like not only was it, of course, the same shape, a triangle was black, but it was just floating and moving and the same size. And then just what I was telling Polly yesterday also is just like throughout watching the movie, I don't know, it just seems like there's a lot of references to the things that we talk about, especially on UFO Hub, which I'm so glad that you're back. I missed you on open lines for a month. All us friends that watch you, we were like so sad. So we had it. We couldn't wait till you came back. So we're glad you're back. But
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
you know, it's just really weird that, I mean, of course, these are, fictional stories, and I just feel that it just has some sort of like truth to it, where regular people who aren't into this kind of stuff would watch it as just like a fictional, story, but others that know more about what is happening or our experiences, it just resonates differently when I saw that movie. I mean, like I said, I don't normally watch these movies. I don't know anything about, these writers that write these comic books, but after watching that, I'm just like, they seem just so more deep into like the detail, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how to explain it, but
Well, see,
just the fact that
right. But go ahead, finish up. I was going to add to your story.
okay, at the very end, so of course there's like tons of references. I told Polly, you need to watch it, just because our, reality is different than other people's reality, things that we talk about. But at the very end, like for the credits, they show, or they kind of talk about and reference pyramids and, the eye and just things back from the Byzantine Empire days and, the Egyptians and hieroglyphs. And I don't know, it was just like really interesting. And I walked away just feeling, for me personally, I was just like so amazed that I saw what I had seen, in the 90s on TV. So,
Hey, I know you went with a friend. Did you tell the friend about it, or you just kept it to yourself?
No, my best friend actually passed away about 7 years ago. So
I was talking about the one you went with the movie.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I did tell her, but I had to kind of like first tell her, it's really weird when I'm going to tell you. I know it sounds strange, but, I saw a UFO that looked just like that, and it's just so crazy to see it on TV. But it just kind of makes it like a strange story to mention to her, like after the fact, to first tell her that I saw something that looked like that, and then to see it on TV. Where with you, it's different because I had told you, Polly, like exactly what it looked like, and I never really looked into it, like researched it. I just know that was my experience and that's what I saw. And I don't really do a lot of research other than just like conversing with people who have kind of the same experiences that I do.
I think they call those things TR3Bs or something. I think that's the name of it. I don't know.
Yeah, you were sending me something. Oh, and then you had mentioned that you met somebody who also saw the same thing at Camp Pendleton, and the strange thing about that, and you told me that maybe a few months ago, and what's weird is the direction that it was coming from Camp Pendleton at that time, because it was in South Orange County when I saw it, and it was coming from south to north. And, you didn't know that, and I didn't put that reference until you told me like a few months ago that some guy said he saw a triangle UFO in the Camp Pendleton area. So, anyways, that's just my little crazy story.
Well, I'm glad you had it.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for sharing. Did you want to add something else? Because I was gonna drop this connection and then get back to the YouTube. Are you watching on YouTube? Because I was gonna respond to something regarding your story.
Yeah, I'm watching it on YouTube.
Okay, good deal. So you'll hear my answer there, and if you can always chime into the chat. But I'm glad we're able to do this loop around via Polly. So thank you, thank you both.
Yeah, thanks for going through all the trouble.
No problem
Thanks
at all.
everybody for listening.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Chrissy. All right. So let me get my stuff back in order here. All right. So what's interesting about movies, and I mentioned this quite a few times in talks. So For those of you who have seen the 5 stages of contact that I've initially, talked about, the very first thing that had occurred that I call, or I termed it myself, the consciousness touch. And basically, talking about those energies, the effect that they had on us as human beings is that we kind of immediately shut down and kind of would not look into what had occurred. It was like almost this subconscious collective. There was this shockwave that resonated throughout, and we all just went, what in the world is this? And so what basically we've been collectively doing is, and I've used this example often, and I'm sorry I have to set this up. It's going to take me a while, but I promise I'll get to answer, or at least address your story regarding the ship. What we basically are doing is kind of like, imagine you being in this room and a person enters, and for whatever reason might be, you do not want to look at that person. And so you go about cleaning the kitchen and cleaning this place and arranging your room, and you sit down and you watch some TV and whatever, all the while this person is still there. And for whatever reason, you're still not looking at them. That's kind of what we have collectively done when this new energy kind of came us. And so what's happening then because of that is that we as a collective, or I guess as humans, for lack of a better word, we are toying with the idea to say, how would it be like if we were to start looking into this direction where this energy is coming from, to face whatever we know is there waiting for us to turn around and look at them, right? And that translates into, initially, back in the 50s, as like this invasion of these aliens coming from these other planets, trying to take over the planet, kill us, and take over, right? Because initially that was the shock, so it was translated as a threat. Then as time progresses and we're realizing, well, we're still here, things aren't ending, we're still not looking into the direction of where these beings are, but to use the scenario of this room that I'm at. So then it went into the possibility of, well, they could be just explorers. So then you have all these different movies, like ET, and Cocoon, and all these different ones, to where collectively it trickles through individuals and directors and producers to then become and manifest itself into movies. And so one thing that I learned, just having a lot of these different out-of-body experiences, is that, and I think Bashar also mentions that, which is, initially it's kind of freaky when you realize this, but over time you kind of become to be okay with it, is that if you can imagine it already exists, because you cannot imagine non-existence. If you can imagine it, it exists in some shape or form, or some reality. And so those are the type of, I guess, these collective thoughts, and that basically then, as we're all connected, would basically seep through these different people that express themselves creatively. So I'm not surprised at all that what you already have seen and know for a fact that it exists, and you've seen it for yourself, that it would then permeate to something like that to be on the screen, and possibly many other people, have seen that. But that's just my take on what is going on there. I'm sure everyone looking at the scenario based on their own personal experiences, they will, give you a different opinion. But as I sit here right now, basing it on my experiences, that is very much most likely what I would presume, is happening, basically. Because sooner or later, the more you look at the different movies and the way they are evolving, I don't know if you noticed, except for a few stragglers out of nowhere, where it's like, aliens want to come and kill you and attack. Most movies have been, went from a threat to their explorers, to they're just these mysterious things that they want to communicate, but they're not exactly sure how to establish it, right? And so knowing that that is happening subconsciously permeating into our reality to come through and come out in movies in that way tells me that we're getting there. I don't know how much longer it takes, but we're gonna get there to this eventual acceptance and, you know, the contact we're always wanting to have. All right, let's see what else we have. Claudine, how are you? Good to see you. PD, good night. Oh, PD, I'm sorry, I covered the DNI. I covered it in the very beginning. So the video and the DNI story, if you just take that live bar, go all the way back to the beginning, you'll see me addressing it and mentioning some things about that. Susie, that was an amazing story. I'm assuming you're talking about Christie's, right? Sonia says, I was contacted, but shut them out. I wasn't ready at the time. Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it all depends from person to person. Because from my initial when I was 11 years old and had that out-of-body experience, and that was very, confusing to me. It wasn't pretty much till I was 25 that it started more heavily and in your face type experiences to where I was finally getting the type of answers I was looking for. So that's quite a lot of years that I don't know. I don't think I would have been ready to what I experienced later to be experiencing at 11 or 12, 13 or any other time. There was just other things in my life that needed to happen, and I guess everything happens at the right time, right? All right. So if there's anyone else that would like me to address something, if you trust my information, that I will be given the information to you as accurately as I know about it, let me know, ask a question. If you want to hop on Telegram to chat and share your story, please do. That's why I'm here. But otherwise, I was just gonna end it here and just basically then continue with next week, have open lines where I'm hoping to do a lot longer segments because it's still taking me a little while to get into it. And I'm also wanting to prep a lot more for these different open lines to just have more of maybe some coverage of some news like I did today. It wasn't that much, but I wanted to get more into more details, maybe show some other videos and documents about something before we go into open lines. Now, I'm not sure if you're interested in that or what, but I just noticed just for the fact that in the very beginning, not everyone is immediately ready to jump on open lines, and me just sitting in silence or chatting about whatever else, I can potentially, remember to talk about. I could at least cover the beginning of something that everybody can gain something from, and then see where it goes after. Let's see here. Yeah, labeled 369, good night. Sonia ask NDE, I guess near-death experiences, says, what was that like? It was the worst day of my life. It was when you're going through the death process, there was nothing, I guess I should say, in that physical part while your body's shutting down and you realize you're going to die. It is despair. It is fear, regret. Especially at that time, there was so many things I wanted to do. I was like, I am not ready to go. It's like there's no way that I have to leave now. And so it was definitely like a oh shit moment, because I realized something that I've done that I did not want to do, which in this particular instance, for those who don't know, it was I took too many of the Hawaiian baby woodrow seeds. A certain amount of it would give you a psychedelic experience. The amount that I took is basically a poison to your body, and it's just, I was basically in a very dumbass way poisoned myself. But little did I know at that time is that that wasn't an accident. It was already pre-planned for this to occur, for me to be able to then to go through that experience in that fearful way, to know what that is like. It would have been different if it was already kind of helped out and cleared out for me. And let me shift over to this. Cleared out, and it would have already explained everything and all to me, and be a very comfortable experience to just kind of transition. But it was weird, because you start the body starts shutting down. You start becoming more unaware of where you're at, and I try to move my body around and try to puke the stuff out, try to drink as much water as I could, and that didn't work. It was just a sinking feeling, just kind of, you feel the shutdown. You're going, and there's no stopping it. And I started to cry. I was just crying, wailing, begging, to stay, and it was just the most, I don't know. I guess that's what a death to a person that didn't know what death was like the first time around would feel like, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it for anyone of you listening. But as I laid there, and I was running out of energy and power to stay awake, because I was slapping myself in the face to stay awake, to not go. And I just had no more energy. I had fought it for the longest time. And as I lay there and just helpless, I had no more energy, nothing left. I just had this overwhelming feeling overcome me, that it was just a feeling, but that translated into words. It wasn't auditory, but just translated into words saying, you're going to die, but you're not going to die. You're going to die, but you're not going to die. And so I just kept repeating that for a few more times. And I just remember myself just kind of taking my last breath and just going, breathing out. As I did that, I was out. And that's when I realized kind of how silly that struggle was, because it was the ego not knowing what's going on, not knowing what's going to happen. It's in the dark. It's very much in the dark, and so basically then, I don't know if you want me to go into any more detail than that, like how that near-death experience was like, unless you mean also then what happened afterwards, which is also another story that I guess if some of you want me to go into, I can. I've covered it again on my previous talks, but I don't know how interested y'all would be. Is there? I mean, I could, for Sonia, for your sake, just cover it. I wouldn't mind. I don't mind sharing it, and then we can let that be last story too. So in a way, I don't really need other people to also confirm, but just I appreciate the fact that you asked. So let me then finish off with this, and then we'll let that be for the night. So what initially happened is I found myself in this just this black void. It was endless, but yet nowhere at the same time. There was no perception of time whatsoever. I just knew that I existed, and there was no body that I could perceive. There was no up or down that I could look. Everything was just there. And what caught my attention was, out of this black void, to see also two beings, but they were kind of bluish in nature, and excuse me, as I turned to the side, I saw them and it looked familiar, and I kind of like just hovered to wherever they were. It was, I guess, my consciousness would just kind of, as I'm focused now, it would just kind of just shift towards whatever I had my attention on. And it was weird because it was my mom and dad. And I was so confused because like, well, they're not dead, you know, and I'm in this place, so what are they doing there? And the second I thought it, it's like almost immediately got an answer. And this was something that threw me off because there was no barriers. So like whatever question you have, answers came, you know, and then like whatever, you know, it was immediately there. Whatever you were wondering about, you could just find out. And I learned that that was their higher selves. Their higher, what I've always heard throughout all these times, people talking about my higher soul, my higher being, that there is an aspect of us that's always on that level, and we're all just these extensions of that higher self. So for lack of a better word, if you, the true you, who you are, the creation of the all, the one aspect of the all, if you are that body, then that ego is like your tip of your fingernail. You know, it's that vast of who we all actually are in reality. And so I realized that then I was talking to them. And what was interesting is that I was happy that they were there and that everything was good. You know, there wasn't anything to worry about. But what followed next is in this life, my parents and I, we never got along. And I often talk about this because in Bosnia, most people, when they raise their kids, I guess in America here, you call that child abuse, but in Bosnia, that's just how you raise children. You know, it's like they didn't follow your directions, you beat the shit out of them. If you can, you beat them with your hands. If you grab a 2x4, you smack them with that. I mean, whatever you got, just to physically discipline them to be obedient, to listen to you. Because in a way, you know, Bosnian culture is very dominating. And so you have to, there's a hierarchy and order. You know, the dad is the king of the house, mom, you know, next down, and then all the other children. And what dad says is the word of God, you know. And so because of that, over these long periods of time, and then of course the relationship that I had with my mom, just constantly just doing these mental fucking, I guess for lack of a better word, pardon my French, just constantly playing these mental games, you know, of just always, you know, just never accepting, you know, I mean, which kid doesn't want to be accepted by their parents, right? And so all these things over the long periods of time, especially when you grew up, it created a lot of resentment, you know, because how can you really establish a good relationship with someone you fear? You know, it's always, you can't truly say, oh, I love them, when they just, you know, were done beating the shit out of you because, you know, you didn't finish your food, you know. And so, or that you were perceived as ungrateful in some shape or form. Well, those thoughts, as I was in this space, like came forward, and I was about to kind of just like, without speaking, say to them, like, what in the world was that about? Like, why did you do this? I immediately, and talking about the immediate answer, got these memories back to where I remembered before we entered this life together. I was actually begging them to be the parents for me and be the parents I need them to be in that way, because my soul understood in what I'm doing today, what I'm doing now, I needed to be shaped in a certain way, and it understood what that requires. And so because we're co-creators, everything is done through agreement, and, you know, some people say contracts, but it's just simply just an agreement of, yes, I'll do it, and I'm sorry, I can't, you know, simple as that. And so because they love me so much, and I begged them, I literally remembered these, I'd like begged them, like, please, I know it's going to be hard, but please, I need you to do this. And so they, you know, because they love me and because they cared, they said, okay, we will agree to do this part. And so when you're born, you don't remember that. And so as the life began, it started. It started early on. And then, of course, you add the Bosnian War and then seeing a lot of death and, having fears of understanding what death is like at 8 years old and understanding that those bodies I just saw, they were shot, that can happen to me. And, just dealing just very early, just constant stress, survive, and, going to school wasn't easy either because I was more afraid. Like, to give you a perfect example, my best friend and I, we would go to school together. We always were kind of competitive. Well, one day, I guess they have like grades in Germany where they do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, here's A, B, C, and D. Well, in this one math thing, he got an A, I got a B, and I got the shit beat out of me for it because I wasn't studying hard enough. I didn't do good enough job. So anyway, those are the kind of things I'm talking about. Well, during this experience, I basically then, as everything came back to me and remembering that there was absolutely nothing that they did that I did not actually beg them for it, I immediately started to feel this overwhelming guilt. Because for all the times that they were so cruel to me, I was always being angry against them. It's like, being pissed off and mad and all this other stuff. And I felt bad because when I remembered that I specifically begged and asked to have that experience and they obliged my begging, that I was so mad at, I was basically ashamed that I was so mad at them in return after asking them. You see what I mean? And so it was all cleared out in that instant. Like I understood there was all of a sudden any kind of hate, any kind of just, I don't know which, tentativeness or whatever, it was just gone. I was like, I understand. It's all clear to me now. Thank you so much. And I'm really sorry. I ended up being the one to apologize because it was my game that was being played and they did nothing more than exactly what I asked them to, and so where this comes into play later on, and when it comes to this different content, and that's why I try to tell it as many people as I can in my own way, whether they believe it or not, I don't know, but I can always just speak about this. Contact in physical way has a very stressful effect, as has a lot of fears and a lot of those things. Well, in my case, I've already dealt with them from a very early age to get baked and like dough being kneaded in that right way to be able to sustain that kind of energy shift and on those energies happening to where I wouldn't lose it. Right? Because when you, anyone that has for a long period of time constantly sustained long periods of stress and trying to not go crazy, but constantly trying to retain themselves of who they are as a person, no matter how much physical abuse or mental abuse, you fortify yourself, you learn to fortify, to stay, to have that core of the being that you are, to then move forward in that way. So then when it was time then for my next journey in life, having these contexts and all these different things, and now all makes perfect sense why it occurred in the way that it did. So again, I don't expect everyone to believe all of this. All I know in the most accurately and honest way that I can try to present it to you, you can just pretty much take it or leave it. And so what happened then is just afterwards, there were some more experiences that I wasn't done with. So when I was done with my parents, it continued in ways like I would learn other nuances, small things, like I all of a sudden, in whatever the space dimension was, I found myself in this room, and it looked very much like a Japanese home. And so there was this white wall, and then you had those sliding doors and wooden floors. And anyway, I mean, just it was a nice room to begin with, and I was just kind of looking at like, why am I here? And I saw on this beautiful white wall, I saw a spider, and my first reaction was to go smack it. And right before I was about to hit it, I could sense the spider. I could feel the spider as a part of myself. And I understood that it is also made of the same energy I am made of. So if I were to kill it in this instance, is that I would have been the one that had stopped the progression or the evolution of these other aspects of myself to move on. Even though it was just a lowly spider, and we always look down upon insects and worms and flies and all these other things. They're all aspects of ourselves. And so it was in that instant I understood that I could almost kind of look back at myself from its point of view, and I kind of moved my hand back, and later on when I came back, I changed my entire way that was dealing with bugs. I even invented, or I don't know if it's a big invention, but found a good way how I can use a napkin to pick up a spider or a wasp or any other, to pick them up in a way where they're contained, but yet I can quickly carry them out. Because if you put the napkin there, you can wait 3 years for them to get on it, then you get off of it. I basically have this like loop around to where I can quickly catch them and keep them in that, to let them outside and go about doing what they need to do. That was an effect that it had on me, coming back, because then I felt like it was so strong, and I understood, so I didn't want to move forward, just aimlessly, like there's a bug, just slapping it, because we all react that way. We don't ever think about what we have just done, and but the point here is that it wasn't a judgment. You weren't being judged that you did that. You were just being shown that this is the consequence an action of yours has. That spider can't really die, but the form in which it was created on the planet will cease to exist. So that one unique aspect of who and what it is only exists one time in these moments, and you can either allow that moment to, conclude naturally, or you can be the cause to end it. Whether it's a life, a picture, destroy something, create something, that's at the end of the day, it's all up to you. And so, anyway, it can go on and on. There's so many other aspects about just synchronicity and how that works and all these other things. And so after all that was done and learned about, I basically came back, and I just took a breath back in my body. And there were some other things that had happened, occurred there, but I can go into it some other time. And I just remembered being very, very weak. And as I laid there, excuse me. As I lay there, there was an auditory, actual voice that I heard. And it just said, now that you know how this game is played, do you want to still continue playing it? And I was like, I don't know that I said it exactly in this way, but it would have been like the equivalent of like, fuck yeah. It was like this overwhelming excitement, because it all made sense, how it works, why we're here, and why we're doing what we do. And I wanted to play it. And the second I said that and completed that thought, I immediately just started feeling nauseous and all kinds of things, and just ran to the bathroom and just did some ungodly things. The point was, the poison and all of that was just flushed out of me and cleaned out. I felt like a newborn baby, and in every way, just everything was out, and I could just even feel my body, that it was like a new beginning, that, it truly was like a cleansing in more ways than once. And then basically just, it was, happiness, for quite a while, meaning like just feeling happy for that day and then following day. But then about 2 to 3 weeks from that moment later, in that 3 weeks period, I just felt deeply depressed. I was depressed, and I because I understood so much, I knew so much, but nobody will ever know. And what was the whole point of me experiencing what I did, when I don't feel like telling people? I don't want to sell it to them. It's like it was something that I experienced for myself. It wasn't this great big thing where I just wanted to run out and tell everybody, and it was just this day in, day out where I just barely made it out of bed. I went to work and put on a smile, but it was truly the depression that most people that through most of my life I always heard talked about, but I never had that until that moment. And so that's when basically when I was just laying there, I would thankfully had a huge water tank. So it was like a 80 gallon water tank. So I would just go in the shower and I would just sit there and I would just have that water go over me and I would be depressed, absolutely not knowing what is the point, because here I'm back again. I'm not connected with where I can immediately get information again. I'm back being the ego of Adnan again. And so here I am going back to life again, right? I said, I want to play this game. So, okay, how do I play it? And that's when when the water turned cold after, I don't know, an hour or so, I finally, I was reaching out for the towel. And I was about to grab it, getting out of the shower at the same time. I just got this chill down my spine with a download. And which was this, I saw it was very similar, not as intense, but similar to how it was during my experiences, where I just understood, it was then shown to me, because this part I didn't go over during my NDE experience. This was in the physical. It was shown to me how, when I was 9 and 8 years old, how I went to this community center for kids while all the other children were doing something else. I was sitting in front of the computer trying to understand what this thing was, in the early 90s, and then later on, this person out of nowhere came to our, I guess, this ghetto where we were living in, or like, I guess they call it more of a camp where they kept all the foreigners in Germany. When we first fled from Bosnia to there, they put us all in one spot. Well, out of nowhere, we got this knock on the door, and this woman said, I'm offering typing lessons. This was like maybe 1993, 1994. And out of nowhere, my dad was like, yeah, this sounds good for you to learn. And I did not dare speak, say no. And so I went and learned how to type, right? And then later on, like, met people that taught me about websites and learned how to design websites and how to use computers. All of that was just flushing into my head, exactly showing me that not one single thing was an accident, and that I'm basically got and gained all the information that I need to be able to start UFO Hub. And I saw the logo, and that's why you see it in black with just white writing, because that's how I saw it. UFO Hub with the circle around it to represent like an alien ship, and but Hub to say that it includes all that, covering basically like all alien related type things. And so that's why initially, before I had this blue circle, I changed it. It was just white circle with that, and against a black background. So of course, knowing graphics, I went and created it, and then I just sat down. And for the first 3 months, I didn't try it, but if I had to, for 3 months, I had so much energy that I could have easily went without sleeping, just programming. And back then you still had to do HTML and JavaScript and PHP and do all these, do more programming to have websites, whereas nowadays it's so much easier just using Squarespace or WordPress. But anyway, I just had all that energy I needed to then start it, and it was so exciting. It was like this most powerful, overwhelming feeling I could possibly imagine. I was just like, it gave me that purpose that I needed to do. And that's how I then started the first interview, and so on and so on, and then led me to today. But anyway, that is, as long as this is still in short of what had happened to me during the near-death experience and the things that followed afterwards. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate you all for being here, and thank you for just tuning in to either listen to me or watch some of the other interviews. It brings me joy in knowing that you guys could potentially learn something from it, and I'm glad that out of all these different places and sources that you considered watching and listening something on my channel. So I'm always grateful to you for that. And yeah, but for now, you guys have a good weekend. Thank you all again for tuning in on this Friday. Next Wednesday, we're going to have open lines again at 7 p.m. Central Time. Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time, I'm going to have Penny Kelly back. So I'm hoping you can call in and ask her some questions. We're going to do maybe a majority Q&A, but in the beginning, I'll just have her give us some other updates or any news that she might have before we go into the Q&A. I want to give you guys more opportunities to ask these people that come on, so you get your answers, your answers to your questions. So I think you find that a little bit more useful than just always just sitting there and listening. So again, thank you. Have a good weekend, and I hope to see you guys next Wednesday. Take care.